This is the News on 6 at 10.
Six-wheeled all-terrain vehicle that's able to crawl over logs.
Rescuers search for clues in a deadly plane crash with help from a unique vehicle.
A fire tears through a Green Country wild animal park, killing several exotic species.
Tulsa police break up what could be an international phony credit card ring.
And don't call him a dummy. He's actually a high-tech mannequin, hard at work training nurses. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Terry Hood.
I'm Scott Thompson. First on 6 tonight, the investigation continues into a deadly plane crash in Tulsa's Mohawk Park. Darren Ogletree reported a problem with his gyroscope just after takeoff from Tulsa International. Federal investigators say the cargo plane circled the airport twice before it went down. Ogletree was flying a load of checks from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, a route he flies on a routine basis. The National Transportation Safety Board says Ogletree was an experienced pilot, but should have had a backup for a broken gyroscope. And it took more than an hour for rescue crews to even find that wreckage.
News on 6 anchor Latoya Silman continues tonight's top story coverage. She's live in our newsroom now with the challenges that investigators had to overcome to figure this one out. Latoya?
Well, Terry, investigators certainly had their work cut out for them. The crash site is heavily wooded, but man and machine are coming together to overcome it. A quick bird's eye view from the crash site shows what took hours to figure out from the ground.
We're talking the thickest woods that Oklahoma has to offer are up there, more or less an urban no man's land. It is, Mohawk Park is bigger than Central Park in New York.
And first responders say a winter storm only added to the problem. Officer Jason Willingham says he and about 75 to 100 other responders from the city of Tulsa and the county didn't have much to go on.
We knew it was north of the airport, but we really just didn't have very much to go off of aside from that. So basically at that point, you go in with your manpower and you start a grid search.
That helped them locate the site, but footwork wasn't their only tool. Meet the Polaris.
It's a six-wheeled all-terrain vehicle that's able to crawl over logs and into places where vehicles just quite simply, I mean, they're smaller, so it's easier to maneuver back into those thick places.
Willingham says IMSA and Tulsa's fire department both have one. He says the vehicles are used for transporting.
Initially, you're talking about you need generators back there for power, you need lights, you need, all the search and rescue equipment to free the victim.
And make the jobs of the FAA and NTSB a whole lot easier.
Extremely professional, extremely helpful folks, and they did a wonderful job of documenting for us.
That vehicle was brought with a grant by the Department of Homeland Security. Willingham says GPS technology also helped. They used it to map out the entire crash site. Latoya Silman, the News on 6 tonight.
At the same time, rescuers in Tulsa were looking for wreckage. Crews near Corpus Christi, Texas were dealing with their own deadly crash. 3 people were killed and another injured when this Navy helicopter went down in a farmer's field. Officers say the crew was just flying a routine training mission when it crashed because of heavy fog. More than a dozen people were hurt when a jumbo jet crash landed in London today. Witnesses say the plane did a belly flop as it tried to land. The underbelly of the luxury jet was torn open and the wings were broken. The landing gear snapped off and the British Airways jet slid for a quarter mile. Emergency crews doused the wreckage with flame retardant foam. Passengers were evacuated on inflatable slides.
Well, several exotic animals are dead tonight after fire rips through a Green Country barn. It happened at Safari Joe's near Adair. Joe Estes says he lost his monkeys, alligators, tortoises, and some exotic birds. He was able to rescue his wolves and lions. The tigers survived as well, although they had to be treated for burns. It took 30 firefighters from 4 different departments to get the fire under control.
We've got the fire that's put out. We're doing mop up, clean up right now, trying to move some debris around and maybe have some idea of what started the fire.
Estes says he walked through the barn a half hour before the fire and says he has no idea what could have sparked it.
Tulsa police believe they've busted an international fraud ring tonight. 4 Asian men are in jail after police believe they flew to Oklahoma to go on a shopping spree with bogus credit cards. Their last purchase was a computer and $2,000 in gift cards at Best Buy. When the manager became suspicious of 3 Visa cards with the same name but different account numbers, the men took off. An off-duty officer was also shopping and chased one man nearly a mile before catching him.
We're just trying to determine if there's a much bigger picture out there or how this relates as maybe an international problem of cards being funneled in.
Police say the credit cards had fake names on front, but corresponded with legitimate accounts. There are new developments in a tragic accident we first told you about last night. 70-year-old Doug Sanders fell off a ladder trimming tree limbs in his front yard. His daughters say he'd planted the oak tree 60 years ago with his own father, and it had special meaning to him. They say they tried to talk him out of doing cleanup work himself, but they say he liked being independent.
You know, he was a big, strong 6'4" man for many years, and he, I think, had trouble coming to terms with the fact that he was getting a little older.
Sheila suggests anyone with older parents keep a close eye on them. Authorities say her father had tied a rope to a tree limb and say when he cut the limb loose, it appears the rope snagged around his arm and pulled him off the ladder.
Well, storm debris is really piling up in Tulsa dump sites, and the city says it's collected enough to almost fill the downtown BOK Tower, that huge building right there. Cleanup crews have hauled off more than 400,000 cubic yards of trees and limbs. Now, you should continue to drag debris as close to the curb as possible and stack it where the mechanical equipment going around town now in those trucks can reach it. And Governor Henry is buying cleanup crews more time. He'll sign a waiver that means those big trucks are exempt from state permits so they can continue to haul away ice storm debris. If the governor did not sign the waiver, out-of-state trucks could have each been issued $7,500 tickets.
Keeping colleges safe in tonight's Capitol Watch, the state wants $16 million to improve security at Oklahoma colleges and universities. That's in a new report commissioned after the deadly shootings at Virginia Tech. The task force said that the money could come from a variety of sources, including federal grants, and it would be used to develop safety plans at each school.
We also recommend the establishment of a program for ongoing professional training for our staff, for our faculty, for our rapid responders in the areas of rapid response, preparedness, and awareness.
The Campus Safety Task Force will continue meeting to make sure those recommendations are followed. New at 10, a man convicted of killing a Tulsa woman is sentenced to death. It's the third time Alfred Mitchell has received the death sentence for murdering 21-year-old Elaine Scott back in 1991. She was a student at OU and was working part-time in Oklahoma City. Mitchell raped and killed Scott at her work. Both previous death sentences were overturned because of legal technicalities. Scott's mother says she just wants this to be over, and she wants Mitchell to die for his crimes.
A prostate cancer breakthrough is in tonight's medical update. 1 in 6 men will be diagnosed with the disease in their lifetimes, but that diagnosis could come earlier than ever. Researchers have found genetic markers that make men 500% more likely to develop prostate cancer, and all it takes is a simple blood test to find them. Doctors say the test may be able to predict who will get prostate cancer even before the disease develops.
Every step is a major step, and something like this is absolutely phenomenal.
Until now, the most reliable tool doctors had for measuring prostate cancer risk was family history. The DNA discovery may explain why prostate cancer seems to run in families.
Advanced technology is preparing Tulsa nursing students for the real world tonight. Nursing professors at Oral Roberts University are reporting great results with a lifelike mannequin called SimMan. After integrating the robot into their training courses, nursing graduates told News on 6 anchor Jennifer Lauren they're prepared for the real world.
This man is going to be coming into the emergency room with chest pain.
Senior nursing students at ORU are standing by, ready to help Sam the Sim Man with whatever ails him.
Oh, I can't breathe and my chest hurts. Help.
We're going to get some oxygen on you, and why don't you go ahead and get some nitro out, and we'll put nitroglycerin under your tongue, and hopefully that'll help relieve your chest pain.
Through this nearby computer, Professor Sharon Willis tells Sim Man what his illness is. Then he simulates it for her students.
I'm feeling very dizzy.
SimMan is a mannequin that comes to life. He talks, he breathes, he has a heartbeat, he has pulses in his neck and his arms, his groin.
Yes, I'm quite nauseous.
With the touch of a button, Sharon can make Sim Man vocalize his symptoms. She can even make him vomit. And if that's not realistic enough for you, Sim Man can go into cardiac arrest if students don't get things under control.
All clear. We don't want to shock the cameraman. Charge. Okay, there you go.
They're real-life situations that otherwise these students may never get to practice until they actually happen. In that way, Sharon says Sim Man has revolutionized nursing school and made new nurses more prepared than ever before.
They learn so much quicker, and then when they get out in the real world, you know, they identify things that sometimes the nurses haven't even noticed.
It's a real person to us because this is what we practice on, so it's really neat.
Jennifer Lauren, the News on 6 Tonight.
Students say the best lesson that SimMan teaches is different breathing techniques. They say they may not be able to identify those problems in patients if they hadn't already heard them through SimMan.
Well, straight ahead, her uncle was one of the great debaters made famous by Hollywood.
And a walk in the park turns into a rescue after a man and his dogs get trapped on a cliff.
And if a wedding is in your future, you'll want to be at the Tulsa Bridal Fair. It's Saturday at the Southern Hills Marriott from 10 to 4. Tickets are $10 at the door, and you can find out more information at KOTV.com.
A Tulsa debate champ is the inspiration for a buzzworthy blockbuster.
The Great Debaters is based on the true story of an all-black debate team that won the national championship back in the 1930s. News on 6 reporter Ashley Sims has the facts behind the film. New tonight, Ashley.
Scott and Terry, The Great Debaters has all the makings of a Hollywood fairy tale. An underdog team prevails through adversity and goes on to glory. Now, while the movie is fictional, the Great Debaters were real, and one of them grew up right here in Tulsa.
Gentlemen and lady, debate is combat, but your weapons are words.
This is the story of Melvin Tolson and his Great Debaters. In the Jim Crow South of the 1930s,
Get down.
a time when blacks were considered inferior, Tolson trained his legendary debaters to be superior. They went toe-to-toe and word for word with students from the most prestigious white universities of the day and won.
It was a sight to see, and I thought it was a great movie.
But it's not just a movie to Mary Jo Copeland Grissom.
I really thought The Great Debaters, all I could see was Uncle Hobart.
Grissom's uncle, Hobart Jarrett, was part of Wiley College's 1935 championship debate team. It's the team depicted in the movie. Jarrett grew up in Tulsa, survived the 1921 race riots, and graduated from Booker T. Washington High School by the age of 16. Grissom calls her uncle larger than life, but she didn't know he was a part of history until he died in 2005. While she discovered his role on that championship team, the movie did not.
And I really was thinking, well, they left him out of the movie. How could they leave his character out of the movie? He was the great debater.
The great debate over Denzel Washington's movie doesn't end there. The big screen version takes creative license with some of the facts. In reality, the Wiley debaters never went to Harvard, and there was no woman on the championship team. Despite those liberties, the great debater's niece can't argue with one fact.
It was an excellent movie. It's just an excellent movie. What we wanted to do tonight was to talk to you and talk with you a little bit about the movie that you saw.
Grissom and several members of her family met with a local church youth group who saw the movie to set the record straight about the real great debaters.
And did you think maybe that really couldn't have happened? But it did.
They passed around old pictures and read from Hobart Jarrett's journal.
I wanted them to know that there were some real people that that were connected to Tulsa, and who actually lived this.
I, too, am America.
It shows how a regular person like myself can be somebody special and make a difference in the community and the rest of the world.
There are several other Oklahoma ties to the story of the Great Debaters. The coach, Melvin Tolson, played by Denzel Washington in the movie, taught at Langston University. And Scott and Terry Tolson's son, he was actually the first black faculty member of the University of Oklahoma.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Great story.
A lot of local ties to it.
I know, that's really interesting. Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley.
Well, some good stuff there, but in the world of weather, not so great around eastern Oklahoma. It is a cold night underway. We have clear skies for the most part, and as you see around the Tulsa area, not much going on. Temperatures are cold, that's for sure. No big storm systems, down to 7 in Kansas City. These are temperatures, as you can kind of see, they drop off down to 6 around Omaha at this time. And the cold air, well, snow, it's pretty much cold here, but snow is up to the north and east. Rapid movement of the storm system, so the northeast has rain mixed with snow and sleet, kind of a mess across the New England states. And the storm system that came through gave us some snow showers, now just kind of falling apart a little bit across the Great Lakes area, but it's windy and cold and blowing snows and lake effect snows going on up there. All right, back home, what's happening? Well, at this hour, we're not really having too much of a problem. If you have a coat on, Unfortunately, the winds are very, very light, but temperatures have dropped to 29. We're kind of holding steady right now. 34 and 20 have been the high and low for today. 51% humidity. Very, very light wind right now. The south, 3 miles per hour. That south wind will kind of help hold those temperatures in check for late tonight. All right, the air mass that we have sitting just from here to the north, very cold. One of the coldest ones we've had this season. We have another cold shot coming up for next week. That's going to be pretty cold too. So this is the coldest air of the season, kind of in the bottom of the winter, so we expect this, so it's not that unusual. But because of such a huge cold area with cold air, just check out some of these temperatures up to 35 or down to 35 below, as you can see in northeast portions of Alaska. Barrow, Alaska, coming in at 18 below zero, much warmer on the southwest side of Alaska, but there is some cold air, and some of that's going to try to sneak back into our area. Now, if we want to look a little bit ahead, like 90 days, that'll take us to the end of winter and the beginning of spring, so there's a good word for a lot of folks who have kind of green thumbs. We're looking for the rest of the winter overall to be still holding near normal or above normal. If you remember, November was above normal temperatures, December below normal. So far, we're running about 7 degrees above normal for this month, because we kind of hit all those 70s there for a while, so that really kind of jacked the averages up considerably. Now, what about precipitation? Be nice to get without ice or snow and things like that. Looks like the wet weather will be east where they need it because we've had a drought pattern going on there. Here in the Central Plains, should be drier than normal, which is not necessarily a good thing, because definitely we don't want to go back to some drought conditions in the last several years. Tonight, notice how the temperatures are in the teens in surrounding areas. Downtown Tulsa just holding on to 29, but you have to kind of look at just the scattered areas like around Eufaula. We're at 28, 27 at Poto, but everybody else pretty doggone cold. Up in Bartlesville, 18. Nowata, you guys are at 18, and Veneta coming in at 18. So go through tonight in the morning hours. It'll be cold, obviously, because it's cold now. Teens to low 20s across the area. Very, very light south breeze. And as we go through the day, a cool front's going to come through, or cold front, big cold front. By afternoon, we'll have a changeover. We should be around 40 or so, about 4 o'clock or so, and then temperatures get much colder. Notice how we go north, it gets real cold. To the south, we'll be near 50 during the afternoon. Then it gets nasty cold tomorrow night again. So kind of getting those reinforcing shots of cold air. Here's a broader perspective for tomorrow morning. You see that front starting to move our direction. This high, which is going to give us a little bit better weather for tonight, early tomorrow, kind of out of the picture. North winds behind it, turning colder. And then as we go into Saturday morning, this is a really cold air mass. This was centered up in Canada. This is going to be down in our area, and we're going to have temperatures around 16, and it's going to be a struggle to get up to near freezing by the time we get on into the afternoon for Saturday. So if you have plans outdoor on Saturday, you better include an Eskimo jacket. Maybe some Eskimo dogs, minus the snow. Temperatures by morning will be around 20 as we go through the day. Temperatures will be pushing around 40 at noon, and then kind of holding off there, especially late afternoon with the gustier winds as it becomes kind of a cold day with increasing clouds. Polar bear day at the Tulsa Zoo. What does that mean? Half price at the Tulsa Zoo if you're headed out there. And then very cold Saturday. Better on Sunday. Sunday looks pretty good, probably the best day of the weekend if you have to get out and about and do some more cleaning of some of the limbs and trees in your yard in the afternoon. And then back to a chance of rain, freezing rain, sleet or snow, Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Still looks like a storm system someplace here. Could be bad next week. We're going to have to watch that storm, so it doesn't look too good.
Okay.
Thank you, Travis. Right. Well, it started off as a leisurely afternoon dog walk, but ended with a major rescue.
One of this man's dogs got stuck on the face of a cliff. It happened near Tacoma, Washington. Now, when he tried to climb down to help the animal, and we're going to see it any minute, he and his other dog.
It's going to be here somewhere.
Oh, well, we're getting it eventually. Anyway, there we go. He and his other dog became trapped as well. A rescuer rappelled down and helped lower the man and his dogs to the beach. Neither the man nor the dogs were hurt, and there they are running along the shore.
They got the frolic after all. Well, a fight for Summit League supremacy took place at the Mabee Center tonight.
And could the Golden Eagles keep their conference record unblemished? Scott has that answer next in sports.
In recent years, ORU's race for a conference title was somewhat of a foregone conclusion. Not this year. IUPUI was named the preseason Summit League favorite, and they've lived up to the expectation to this point. Both teams undefeated in conference, coming in for the top spot in this evening's contest. We pick it up in the first half. George Hill could be an NBA player someday. Drives, layup good. Early Jaguar lead. Later, Adam Liberty feeds Marcus Lewis. The two is good. ORU led 33-31 midway through. Yemi Agunye, one of his 2 steals on the game. He flushes on the other end. Later, playing that solid defense, Sean King with the block, and it leads to a Robert Jarvis layup on the other side. He led ORU with 21 points on the day. Moses Ihambi steps back, hits the three. The Eagles with just one field goal in the final 7 minutes and 52 seconds. IUPUI down one the final few seconds of the game for the win. No good. And ORU holds on, gets the 1-point victory, 64-63. Jarvis led all scorers with 21. Golden Eagles now 6-0 in Summit League play.
They gave us everything we wanted. A little disappointed that we couldn't finish the game better. It shouldn't have been as close as it was, but at the same time, you have to give those guys credit. There's a reason we turned the ball over. There's a reason they forced us to take a couple of bad shots. I'm very happy we won that game because that was a huge game in this league race.
I didn't even want to look really until I just heard the crowd cheering. I turned around and they was scrambling for the ball and the buzzer went off. That's the main thing I was looking for, the time to go off the clock so we could come out there with that W.
13th ranked Marquette visiting unranked Louisville today. Second half, Cards by 6. Edgar Sosa with a great pass to David Padgett. Louisville would end up putting this one away early. Padgett to Terrence Williams. The three, not just an upset, but a blowout upset. Louisville wins by 20. TU will get another crack at their first conference win on Saturday at SMU, but it will only come if the Golden Hurricane can put that back-to-back overtime conference loss. Heartbreakers behind them.
I feel like personally we have to learn from these overtime losses. I mean, we have to just come together collectively as a team, as a family, and just try to work harder and to pull these out.
James Curry, arrested overnight in Boise, Idaho. The former OSU Cowboy was charged with urinating in public and resisting arrest. Curry is currently with the Bulls D-League team. Coming up, switch the focus to football and OU's new offensive coordinator. We'll be right back.